First, from Star Trek The Next Generation, Mr. Brent Spiner.
Is anybody in this auditorium, did anyone ever go to, in their lives, the Bluebonnet Gardens on Fannin? Yeah! You did not, you liar. All right, I'm going to introduce someone I know quite well. Who is he? Yeah, my buddy, my friend, you know him, you love him. He's new, he's now, he's pop, he's what's happening. Ladies and gentlemen, LeVar Burton!
Empty seats.
Yeah.
How about we bring out some gorgeous?
Fine with me. God knows. You do it.
Sure.
Yeah.
Ladies and gentlemen.
Here she is.
The one, the only. You know her as 7 of 9. I know her, yes, I know her as the future ex-Mrs. Burton. Jeri Ryan!
Thank you all for being here. First of all, I mean, it is a Star Trek family. I mean, you guys are from different shows.
Different parents.
Different parents.
Well, that we know of.
Besides conventions, do you cross paths ever?
Once in a while. Yeah.
Yeah. And we follow each other on social media, and we keep in touch.
Now, Jeri, Brent caught us backstage. I was whispering to you something. He has no idea. He was actually, and LeVar, you're actually involved in this too, because years ago, I'm the biggest Star Trek fan on the planet. Somehow this kid from Houston, Texas, BS'd his way to a producer in LA and like, can I have an extra part on Enterprise? So I got to fly out and be an extra on the show, and it was the episode where you were...
On Enterprise?
On Enterprise. And LeVar, you were actually showing up afterwards because you were getting ready to direct the next episode.
I see.
And it was really funny because I was talking to Brent, and he was, by the way, what you see on stage is what you get. The nicest man I think I've ever met, you know, because I was probably driving you nuts with questions.
Ever.
Yes. So nice. But I asked you a question, I'm like, I was like, you know, did you ever experience something where, you know, somebody asked you an episode, a question, and you're like, oh, I've never seen a single episode in my life. You said, I never watched that. You know, it's like you work on it all this time, and you get home, you don't want to watch Star Trek. And then I told this story a couple of years ago. Patrick Stewart, we had him on this stage. And in his voice is, well, tell Brent he's quite full of shit. So, true or false, do any of you ever watch, you know, old episodes?
Oh, now? Correct.
Yeah, just it comes on cable, it's late at night.
No, you know what, the truth is I've seen about 10 episodes. The first 10, and then I realized, I know what happens. Why am I watching this? watch something I've never seen before. But you know what? Apropos of that meeting we had, I have to tell you in all sincerity, I have no memory of you whatsoever.
Okay.
Nicest guy in the world.
Or because, I mean, here I was dressed up like a Denobulan and I had all this makeup on, and I'm
No wonder I don't recognize
fanboying
you.
him like nonstop, and he's just been so gracious, and you were too, LeVar, because you were walking down the hallway, and I said hello, and you were just so pleasant, and it's surprising how wonderfully nice everybody is on that show. Was there ever any instance for any three of you where you're like, wow, I can't believe somebody's not behaving well, or any kind of tantrums, or any kind of like bad behavior that you witnessed?
Well, Patrick was mean. That's all. I don't want to elaborate.
We'll move it along, man.
Enough said.
So all of you worked with a series of guest stars, one by one. Each one of you share with us like a guest star that you loved working with. You're like, oh, this was so fun. It's such a memorable thing to shoot.
We really did have great guest stars. I just don't remember any of them.
Blank on people's names. Well, one thing that I loved working, and I have no idea what episode it was. I have no idea. I don't even remember what alien species he was supposed to be. But he's a dear friend of mine, and he was Hugh Borg on your show, wasn't it on your show? Johnny DeLarco, and so we're dear friends and for years, and he guest starred on Voyager one time, and that was fun to get to play with him.
Jeri, can you take the next question? How did you come about being cast? Because when Star Trek Voyager began, there was no 7 of 9 in the early seasons. So how did you find out about this? Take us through, like, landing the part.
So yeah, it was going. The characters began at the beginning of season 4, and you know, the audition comes down the pike, and I said, no, I'm going to pass because I'd never watched Star Trek. I didn't really know much about it, other than sort of the reputation for actors kind of getting pigeonholed, and that's the only thing that they are known for, or whatever. I don't know. I was just nervous about it. And I didn't see this material. I didn't read them. I just said, no, I don't think so. And so I passed on it a few times, and then the agent, or the casting person called my agent and said, she really needs to look at this. I really think she should read this. And they had 2 scenes, one of which was, you know, the now infamous, Harry Kim, take off your clothes scene, which I hate, because it was so on the nose and so easy. And the other one, which of course we never shot, was one of the most beautifully written scenes I've ever had for any audition ever in my entire career to this day. And it was a scene of, I think it was Seven and Chakotay or somebody, but of Seven having her first memory of laughter. And my son was like 2 at the time, and so I could use him as my sort of model for this character, because he's discovering all this stuff, and so she's rediscovering it. And so from that scene, I saw the potential of what this character could be, and I went in and I read, and then they wanted to make the test deal, and so I was supposed to do my screen test the next day, and Voyager happened to be on that night. And my mom and I were sitting there, and I said, well, I should probably watch it. You know, potentially signing away, you know, 4 years of my life to do this. And it was the worst hour of television I ever sat through. Like, I literally was watching it through my fingers and weeping. And so I called my agent right after the show was over, and I said, I'm not going to cancel it. And Rick Berman called me at my apartment the next day and said, so I understand you have some reservations. I was like, And to his credit, he had me come in and said, you know, come in and we'll sit down, the 3 executive producers at the time, and, you know, we'll answer all your questions and talk me off the ledge, basically. And so I got in there, and at this point, I had no interest in doing it, so I had nothing to lose. I was like, well, I watched it last night, and they went, oh, God, no, not that episode. So I don't know what episode that was either, but apparently they knew it was bad. And they were great, and they really sat there and answered all my questions and assured me, and to their credit, it was not BS. They lived up to everything that they promised me they would do with this character. And so I did it.
Great. Now, LeVar, what about you? So let's go back. It's 1986 when they announced that they were going to do a Star Trek The Next Generation. How did you become involved? Like, how did you find out about the role? What made you want? Was this the original role you wanted in the show?
It was the only one I was asked to look at.
Well, a lot of times you hear about, you know, it's like, well, that wasn't really the part I wanted.
Well, No, this is the part I wanted. This was the part I wanted. And my audition scene was, again, another scene that never made it into any of the episodes, but it was a scene between Jordy and Data when they identify their commonality, that Data's brain and Jordy's eyes see the world as it is. And so they form a team called the Perceivers. And that was the basis of our friendship between Data and Jordy. So the Perceivers never made it in, but the relationship did.
Fantastic. What about you, Brent?
Well, they originally called me. They were very interested in my playing Jordy, and I said no. Please, I have no interest in playing that part. And no, I auditioned, I think 300-400 times, and finally they gave me the part. And yeah, I read the same scene LeVar did, and we were going to be the Perceivers. I was so excited about that.
I was excited about that,
You know, it's not too late. Yeah. You know, a spin-off series, The Perceivers. Two extremely old Starfleet officers.
I mean, did any of you actually have, you get your scripts and you're like, oh, good, I get to shoot an episode. Most of my scenes are with this particular character. Would you look forward to working with other cast members more so than others? I mean, not because you like them more or less, but because you thought that you could explore more of the relationship between those two characters, like Jordy and, Data.
Well, I think we all really look forward to Bridge Days when we were all working together.
Yeah.
Those were our favorite days on set, right?
It was the most fun.
To be true too, Jerry?
We laughed all day long.
Right. When we were all together, it was the best.
Any practical jokers you care to call out? Or was everybody?
Everyone in every cast, I suspect.
Well, we weren't really, I wouldn't say practical jokers, only because we didn't do things like, put matches in our shoes and stuff like that. But everybody was funny. Everybody was funny. And so we literally laughed all day long. And I know a lot of the people on your show, and I mean, is there a funnier human being than Ethan Phillips? I mean, he's the funniest man on the planet.
Love him.
Yeah.
It got to the point where and I'm an easy laugh anyway, but he wouldn't even try to make me laugh anymore, and if I had a scene with him, I couldn't even look at him, because if I made eye contact, I would just break and start cracking up. And he's just trying to do his job, and just be a good actor and say his lines and behave, and I couldn't even look at him.
Was there any place that any of you wish your characters had gone?
Ohio?
Like a storyline, like in other words, man, the show's over now, I wish we had been able to explore this
At the time, I was hoping that Data would wind up on ER. But never happened. There was some talk, but I think Clooney said, no way.
He's jealous.
Exactly.
What do y'all think about answering questions from the audience? Do we have some audience questions here today?
Capital idea.
Of course.
Who's going to step up first? Come on up to the mic.
Don't be afraid.
Grab that mic.
It's quite a theater, isn't it? Look at this place.
I have a question for LeVar. Did I say it right?
You did.
Oh, thank you.
What is your name?
Carter with a K.
Hi, Carla.
Do you see the meme of the Magic School Bus and the Captain Planet meme?
I have not, Carla. With a K. It is a meme of the Magic School Bus and Captain Planet.
Let's see. Now we got to let everybody else in on it. Wow.
How did I not see this before?
You didn't know Carla before.
Thank you, Carla.
Can I have my phone back?
This is awesome. Carla, can I have your phone? Okay. Shall I take a picture of us while I'm here? Yeah. How do I do that? Oh, in there's your camera. That's the camera. You didn't turn it around, right?
Yeah.
No? Oh, shit. Oh.
That was not LeVar, actually. Someone in the audience is a ventriloquist. Now stop it.
How do you
Yes, how do you turn the camera around, Carla? Yes,
hold, please.
Selfie. That's the whole idea.
Okay.
All right, here we go.
Oh, wait. Thank you, Carla.
That was...
Thank you, Carla. Do you have any memes of me? Should have gotten another picture.
All right. Hi, step right up to that mic.
I'm afraid of the mic. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. This is for LeVar and Brent.
Another guy. And
About 2002, 2003 in January, there was a convention at the Meadowlands.
The Meadowlands in New York.
New Jersey?
Jersey, yeah.
And you guys were all supposed to be there from Next Gen, everybody. And when we got there, at the last minute we were told, they were called away early to start shooting Nemesis. Is that true? Because
For 16 years.
just take that one. All right.
it's not about you, it's about the guy who's doing the conventions, because he's out of business now.
Oh, is he? Well,
Yes.
clearly.
It's
Should
a
be.
wonder.
Yes. And I'm just curious if that was true. Because we drove from
2002, I don't remember anything before 2015.
I'm gonna say
the whole cast just
It times out. We made Nemesis in 2002, I believe.
you know what? I'm not gonna rule it out as a possibility.
because it was like boom.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Just we got there.
Just
But the
squash,
entire cast,
The
nobody
entire-
showed up. They all were not there.
That's right.
squashed your dreams.
It
right?
was because I was there to see Next Gen people.
Well, this must be a dream come true. The booze, yeah.
Just want you to know I've been all around the country trying to get all your autographs.
Well, I hope this serves as some sort of balm for your wound. God bless.
You know, you gotta let go of things.
Sometimes it's better to just release.
Russell just
Kill you. Yeah.
This is why I had to sit between them.
Hi, what's your name?
Hi, my name is Jason. My question is almost too serious at this point. Going back to something you were saying earlier about, working together or whatever, oftentimes two characters in an ensemble class or cast will click especially well. And obviously the writers were really intending for, Data and Jeri LaForge to be just that. And so obviously the question is for LeVar and Brent. The question being, did you guys feel that you kind of uniquely clicked together, or do you feel that there was one other person that when you had those certain scenes that you really bounced off of each other, that much more than
Well,
each other?
I can't speak for LeVar, but I didn't care for anyone on the show. I like the scenes I did by myself, and often, in the cat, and I often played scenes with myself. There'd be Data and Lore and Dr. Sung.
Yes.
I bonded with all of those guys.
So that's a no. All right.
Well, I will say, for my own part, there are very few people who have the shorthand, I think, that Brent and I do. Although I love working with all of my other castmates, there was always, just because we were written together. So I spent more time with you than anybody else in the cast.
Yeah.
But even if it's written together, unless there's a chemistry, it's not going to work. So you obviously had a chemistry together.
Yeah, we were like Bruce Willis and Sybil Shepherd. It was that kind of.
How How many people get the moonlighting reference?
No, but you know, if you watch the show, you can see throughout the series, probably from the beginning to the very last moments of Nemesis,
Seriously, to the very last moment.
Between us, we had this shtick we did that we would look at each other and go, and we must have done it 1,000 times. And you'll see it. Right before I jumped off the ship in Nemesis, I looked,
What about you, Jeri? Was there anybody on the show that you just felt like a real chemistry with, you enjoyed doing scenes with?
I loved the relationship between 7 of 9 and the Doctor. I loved that relationship. I loved that he mentored her, and I loved it. And I love Bob Picardo. He's a wonderful actor, and he's so much fun, and just a dear man, and he's just so talented. But I just loved those two. I loved that relationship. I loved everything about it.
Do any of you get to work with each other? Because I know you've all, at one point or another, done voices for Star Trek video games. When you record those, do you just do them by yourselves, or you don't get to act together?
Oh, you're sitting in a booth by yourself with a sheet of lines, and you're just like, okay, say this one, fire. Okay, let's do one more. Fire. Perfect, that's good. Next one. That's literally.
Thanks. Okay, we have our next question ready?
Hi, I'm Brandon.
My name's Harley.
This is 6-year-old Harley.
Harley.
Brent, welcome home.
Thank you.
You know, in the movie Trekkies, there's a scene where a woman has a photo album. She's a fan of yours. Page after page, it's the same photo of you. Turning the page, she gets to the last page of the photo album. It's a photo of all the other photos. When you saw that scene, is your restraining order against her still active?
Actually, we're married now.
What did you think when you saw that?
You know what? I've never seen it.
You have to see it.
No. Oh, you're lying. No, I'm not. No, I've actually never seen it. I've heard about that, and I'm terrified.
Nice to meet you. Welcome to Houston.
How about fans, though? Have any of you met a fan where you knew that you had made a real change in their life, and they just said something to you that just really kind of like, wow, I feel amazing? Because, I mean, all of you, in one way or another, really have helped myself. I mean, Star Trek, like I said before you came out here, was always something that, you know, I could be having the worst time of my life, and it was just it was like comfort food. You know, I could turn it on, and it just made me feel good and forget about the problems of the world, or maybe even make me think of the problems of the world when it was an allegory. But have you met a fan, any of you, where you're like, wow, I think I've really done something good here?
Well, I mean, I've had several fans who have come up to me who are young people in their 20s or early 30s who have said, oh, you know, I have Asperger's, and okay, man. And when I was a kid, I couldn't relate to anything on television except Data, and subsequently Seven, and I had no idea that was happening at the time. And I'm glad I didn't know, because I probably would have pushed the writers to go further with that and blown the whole thing for them. But it's so moving to realize that you had this impact. You know, we were there hopefully to entertain people. That was our idea. Let's give people an hour of entertainment. And that there was this other thing happening, this ancillary thing that was so much deeper than that is kind of overwhelming, really.
It's true, and I was aware of it because I had gotten fan letters from several people who were on the autism spectrum who said that they so related to Seven, and it meant so much to them for them to see someone like them dealing with the same kind of things that they deal with, and how you interrelate with other people, and who felt like them. And it's amazing. I mean, it's a very powerful thing.
It really is.
To hear.
Oh, hello.
Hi, what's your name?
Clint.
Nice to meet you guys. I have a question, but before that, back in the 80s, both my parents worked, and everybody couldn't always be together as a family, but we always found a way to get together to watch Star Trek: The Next Generation. So,
see, that's another thing right there. That's another one of those things that we hear from people that is so rewarding. And I can't, thank you so much.
Thank you. My question is not Star Trek related as much, but kind of is. On the show Orville, there's a character, I think it's Isaac. Sounds just like you, Mr. Spiner. Is it you, or is it taken off of you? Are you?
It's an homage.
You're not involved with it at all?
No, it's not me, and I'm not involved with it. But I'm sure this guy. I've heard he's a terrific actor, and God bless him. Yeah.
As that show tries to really pay homage to Star Trek in a way,
that's the series.
Have you guys been approached about possibly going on to it? Or,
Could I see me going on to it? I see me starring in it.
Pretty much anything at any time.
Exactly. Name another show.
Master in disguise.
Have any of you seen the latest incarnation, Star Trek Discovery? Have any of you seen an episode yet?
Not yet.
Not yet.
Okay. All right.
No, they're getting their $4.95 a month out of me or whatever it is. But I haven't. I'm gonna binge watch it. I love the opportunity to binge something that I'm really into. So I will binge watch Discovery, and I'm sure I like it. I'm a big Star Trek fan.
I'm going to do that. I'm going to binge our show one day.
The Next Generation.
Hi, what's your name? Chris.
Hi, I'm going to bring a touch of Houston here, and Brent, this is kind of about your early work career, I guess. My mom used to know you as a teenager, and I was just wondering...
Would you like to explain that, sir? I think the word son might be in order.
Go ahead, Junior.
She said you used to work at Astroworld. I'm wondering if that was part of your early career in performing.
Yes. Astroworld. Astroworld was an amusement park. It was there was Six Flags Over Texas at the time in Dallas, and then they opened a park in Houston, Astroworld. It was behind the Astrodome. Judge Roy Hawthines, who had been mayor, judge, and he had been mayor, and he built the Astrodome, and then he built Astroworld, and I was many things. I was a gunfighter. We did gunfight shows in the western town. This really dates me, but in 1968, Robert F. Kennedy was assassinated, and as a gesture, they had us throw our guns away, and then we were out of a job. So my friend Trey Wilson, who I was also working there at the time, he and I came up with an idea for a medicine show. And they bought it, and they liked it, and they built a wagon for us, and we did a medicine show, and it went on. The medicine show went until Astroworld closed. And I think there were other well-known actors played the medicine man after I did and Trey did. I believe Daniel Day-Lewis played it for a while. And, but I did a television special from Astroworld called The Pied Piper of Astroworld. That was sort of my first professional job. And it was Soupy Sales and Leslie Gore. It's my party and I'll cry if I want to. And the Muppets. And me. Mm-hmm. I worked with the Muppets.
I'm starstruck. You worked with the Muppets.
Yeah, I worked with the Muppets. Anyway, it's all true. Yeah, thank you. Say hi to Mom.
LeVar and Jeri, either one of you have any early pre-Hollywood jobs that you care to share with us? Like, it was something you did early on. You know, before you got into entertainment, did you have to work any odd jobs, or was entertainment something you always were going to be a part of?
It was what I always wanted to do. I had one job in college for one summer at a clothing store, bad clothing store, bad clothing store. But I spent my entire paychecks on the clothes. So it was kind of a pointless job. I was not very good at it.
I worked at Shanks Arco in Sacramento, California in the summers. I was a gas jockey. And then I worked at Mr. B's Formal Wear, 5025 Stockton Boulevard, again, Sacramento, California. Mr. B's Formal Wear was where everyone came to get their tuxes for proms and the like.
What was for each one of you, what was the first time you did a job where you're like, oh my God, Mom and Dad are gonna see this, and you're really proud, and you just couldn't wait for them to experience what you've done? A play, a TV show, anything?
Let me help you.
I guess Piper of Astroworld.
I wish I'd done that show.
I know, I wish you'd been on it too.
Would have been great together.
Yeah.
I've tried to find it on, it's the one thing that doesn't exist on Google or YouTube. No.
Yes, it does.
Oh, it does?
We Googled it just now.
You've seen it, you've binged it.
No, we literally just
over and over, and you've got it on a loop at your house.
We just found it. It's on YouTube. Uploaded January 9th, 2012.
Screening party after this.
Now you got something to do on the plane.
I've got a fan. Or was it Soupy Sales that you watched before? Yeah. You know, by the way, let me just say, if you don't mind, that I'm so glad you have this young lady here signing. It's such a cool thing to do. It really is. And thank you so much. That's not actually what I said. She's ad-libbing over here.
I think you just got called an asshole in Amazon.
I think you're right. Yeah, there you go.
So that'll be handy to know. How do you say asshole in American Sign Language?
Yeah. I would have guessed that, actually.
Hi, what's your name?
Hi, I'm Lindsay, Ryan LaBoucheau, and to the interpreter.
Yeah, thank you.
I just wanted to say, first, thank you to all three of y'all for sharing your talents with us over the years and continuing to share your talents with us. I think I speak for everyone, we really appreciate it. By the way, reading Rainbow was my life. Whenever I saw it on that show, so thank you. Enjoyed my love of reading. My question is actually for Brent.
I did not see that coming.
Houston is such a literate town, really. Yes.
You're always in my heart, LeVar. I know in one of the episodes, Data was going to be the best man at one of his fellow co-workers' weddings, and you had to learn how to dance.
Yes.
One of my favorite scenes, having been a former dancer, is the one where you were with Gates McFadden, and she is teaching you how to tap dance.
Yes.
How long did she have to work with you on how to teach you how to tap dance?
Oh no, I taught her.
Question answered.
Yeah.
Mystery solved.
No, actually, she is a legit, she's a choreographer. She, talk about Muppets. Yeah, she choreographed...
The Labyrinth.
Labyrinth.
Yes. Mind blown, isn't it?
So she's
a fascinating panel.
She knows the Muppets way better than me. And yeah, so she's a terrific dancer, and she choreographed that whole sequence. And I've had some, you know, tap dancing. I took tap dancing here in Houston from the Asbury School of Dance.
Nice.
Yeah. And they taught me to tap dance. I wasn't as good as her, as Gates, but then I didn't really care to be. And but she taught me the sequence. Yeah.
All right.
What?
They want you to give us a little sample of your tap dancing.
Well, you know, let me just. It's really hard to tap on carpet. Can you hear it? There's just thousands of mini taps going on right now.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
Hi, who are you? What's your name? Sorry, what was that?
Mackenzie.
Oh, Mackenzie, go ahead.
This is actually for Brent. What was your favorite part of playing Data?
Me? Lindsay?
Mackenzie.
Lindsay. Mackenzie, my favorite part of playing Data was, you know, when I first took the part, the third episode of the show, we had a director who said, if you signed we signed 6-year contracts to do the show. He said, you are going to be miserable at the end of this 6 years because you can't do anything. You're just so limited. The part is so limited. You're not going to be able to do anything. And I said, I don't think so. And so what turned out to be my favorite part was that they just kept throwing things at me. And
you kept knocking them out of the park.
Well, it kept me on my toes, and it really taught me to work quickly and figure things out as fast as I could, and to trust myself. Yeah, that was the best thing. And it was like almost, I got to do so many different things, and so many different characters, and so many different aspects of humanity that Data was exploring. So it was the whole thing of it that was wonderful to play.
And I think that's what's so great is all of you had a character that evolved and did such wonderful jobs of doing so. Was there ever a certain point during the show where you're thinking, okay, this is a real turning point for my character and I can see where it's going to go from here without having run a script?
Well, I certainly, when I got the emotion chip, it changed everything. And I thought that was a real stroke of genius on the writer's part, because they took a character who had been, you know, one thing for 6 years, and then all of a sudden changed him forever. And yeah, that was really exciting.
And even Jeri at the end of Voyager, when this romance began between you and Chakotay, were you like, what's this? Or were you taken aback when you first learned of that? Or how did you feel about it?
I've heard a lot of complaints from fans about that relationship coming out of nowhere. My complaint is not that it came out of nowhere, because technically, and I don't remember what the chronological sequence of events was, but I don't know if it was that season or the season before, we had an episode where Seven was experimenting with humanity on the holodeck. And she basically fell in love with Chakotay, or with the simulation of Chakotay on the holodeck. And then something happened and her board wiring was short-circuiting, and so they realized she could never have a relationship or something like that, and so that was the end of that episode. Right after that, the next episode that we shot was Seven and Chakotay getting, like, our shuttlecraft crashed or something on some foreign alien planet or something. And so we specifically asked them, I think Robert and I both did, all right, are we going somewhere with this relationship? Do I need to play that through? Do you want the subtext that she's, attracted to him or in love with? No, absolutely not. We're not taking that any further. That was just a one episode thing. Don't play that. Okay. And then cut to last episode, they're in love. It's like, okay, we could have been playing, it was just a missed opportunity that subtext should have been there through all the rest of it, and they intentionally told us not to play the subtext. So that was my only complaint with it.
LeVar, I mean,
once I discovered for certain that Geordi was never going to have sex, I knew that was a real turning point for the character.
You ever just go to the writers and you're like, oh God, can you please get this guy
It was pathetic, it really was. Because even Data by episode 3 was...
Hi, what's your name?
Hi, I'm Andrea. I am retiring this year after 29 years in education.
Thank you, by the way.
And I'm always, this is for all of y'all, I'm always interested to know if there was a teacher or a mentor or somebody in your life that really just inspired you.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And yes, you inspired me and my kids.
For me, it will always be my mom, Irma Jean Christian. Whenever I get the opportunity to speak that woman's name in public, I do. My mother was It was my mom that I inherited my love of the written word from, my love of storytelling, and I would not be the man that I am if not for that woman.
Good answer.
My middle school music teacher, Gail McDermott, in Paducah, Kentucky, Lone Oak Middle School. And she was the first one to really encourage me to really try this as a living and go into the arts, and didn't sort of laugh it off or think, oh, that's, you know, it's silly, it's pipe dream, whatever. And she was so encouraging and so supportive and wonderful. And I think she was that inspiring to a lot of our students.
Yeah, I had a teacher, both in high school, the same teacher, and in college at the University of Houston. Cecil Pickett, he was a legend in Texas, a great teacher. Taught a lot of people who you've seen on the screen and on stage. And he was, you know, having a great teacher, that's everything. If you have somebody who, what he gave me, more than anything, and he taught us a lot of stuff, but most particularly what he gave me was a feeling that I had something to offer. And I'd never been given that before. And it made all the difference in my life. And congratulations to you on your work.
Yes,
and all teachers.
Have any of you taken anybody under your wing, maybe whether filming an episode or working on a project, and helped them out, or said, oh, you know, maybe try this? I mean, have you had, you know, constructive criticism for people, or just help them out?
Yeah, sure. Yeah, particularly when I work with kids. Just to try to, you know, make sure they're comfortable and make sure they're, you know, feel confident and free to do what they can do.
What would you say to somebody that's trying to actually get into entertainment acting? Now, I told you backstage, my daughter just literally graduated an hour and a half ago, and she's going off to college 2,000 miles away to pursue what all of you do. What would be your piece of advice to somebody that's trying to break into entertainment?
Is it too late to talk her out of it?
Yeah, I was going to say, it's your job to discourage her. And if she
So
can't...
well done. Good job with that.
I'm paying out-of-state tuition, so maybe you can do that for me.
But you know, the fact is, I think if you have kids who want to be in show business, it really discouraged them. And if they can't be discouraged, that's what they should be doing.
Exactly right. I try and dissuade people all the time. And if I can talk you out of it, then you should never have, then it really wasn't for you.
That's right.
Then it wasn't.
And if you think, oh, I want to be an actor, and if that doesn't work out, I'll be this, be that.
Be that.
Because you have to give it all of your
You can only do this if this is the only thing.
So it would be fair to say that none of you had a plan B.
No, I had no plan B.
No plan B.
Hi, what's your name?
Hi, I'm Janice.
Oh, hi, Janice.
Hi, Brent. I have a question for you.
For me?
For you.
Okay.
I hear you do a really amazing impression of Patrick Stewart. Can we prevail upon you to do that?
Can you imagine really how irritated with me he must be? I mean, I'm sure he sees these videos that you're taking right now, and I don't think I sound like that at all. No, you know, my latest thing, I do Patrick Stewart. I'd like to introduce you to my good friend, Ian McKellen. Ian, say a few words. Well, Patrick, thank you for
That's good.
This is my good friend, Patrick, Dame Judy Dench. Judy, thank you, Ian.
Stunning.
Yeah.
Wow.
I do them all the Brits, all the sirs and dames. Yeah.
Hi, what's your name?
Hi, Eric. Hi. I had a question for Mr. Burton. I want to know your thoughts and feelings as an actor about as the Geordie LaForge on the Leia Brahms situation. I.e. Geordie falls in love with a holodeck creation, then awkwardly meets the real thing. Because I think it's a very important part of the Star Trek lore, and the show sweeps it under the rug in a way. Oh, that's a bit of ugliness. But you play it in a very real way in the show, and I think it's one of the only times in Star Trek there's a real human emotion there that's not larger than life or epic. It's kind of negative, but I think it's important to show that in TV too. That's what I
wanted. Tears. I see tears.
Yes, that happened. Yeah. Geordie was a creeper.
It's okay.
You know, I didn't think much of it at the time because I don't know. She was hot. Susan Gibney is a terrific actor. And I loved playing opposite her. It wasn't until years later when it was pointed out to me how inappropriate some of the decisions Geordie made were, and I was desperate.
Right?
Yeah. So I'm going to blame it on the writers.
Writers.
Right? The same ones who insisted that he be celibate. Yeah.
How great was it to get the visor off when you went to the movies?
Oh, so great. So great.
I mean, because, Brent, you're wearing the makeup all day, Jeri with the prosthetics, and LeVar wearing that. I mean, how comfortable was it filming all day long? Did you have times where you were able to get out? I mean, you couldn't wash that makeup off.
You couldn't.
No, it was horrible. It really was. It was I told you what the best part of playing Data was. The worst part was being in that makeup 16 hours a day with contacts that I couldn't take out because because my hands were painted. I couldn't take them out. So I had this makeup that was a base makeup, regular base makeup, and then gold powder was packed onto my face, make it really smooth. And about, I don't know, an hour into the day, the makeup got into my eyes and smeared over the contacts, so I couldn't see anything. And I realized it kind of informed the character in a lot of ways, because you remember Data would go, I was trying to see.
And how hard was it to see out of that visor walking around?
It was not easy. It wasn't. What?
Did you ever walk
inside? What?
I remembered a moment just now.
What?
When Majel Roddenberry was doing the show. She played Waxana Troy. She was Gene Roddenberry's wife. She was a very flamboyant woman and a very flamboyant actress as well. And there was a party scene, and she took a glass of something, some liquid, and she was gesturing, and she threw the drink over her shoulder, and it hit him right in the face. He didn't see it coming at all because of that. You didn't think it was funny, I
didn't think that was funny, no. No, not so much.
No, my makeup, the normal makeup that I got to wear was easy because the pieces just went on like stickers. It was the Borg makeup that was a nightmare. And the very first day on set, it was a scene on the bridge. And I had a laser over one eye, so you can't see. Never occurred to me that when you have one eye covered, you have no depth perception. And it's my first time on this set, and there's steps all over the damn bridge. And it's silver metal with the little lines, so you can't really see them that well anyway if you don't know they're there. And so literally, I'm trying to look so serious as, you know, the board with the, and I'm tripping. And it was a mess. It was a mess. And nobody bothered to go, oh, there's a step there. Oh, sorry.
We got time for another. What's your name?
Oh, hi, I'm Wilbur. I got a million questions for everybody, but just a little two-parter for Jerry. I was actually a big fan of Trek, of course, but Boston Legal as well. What was it like working with Bill Shatner and Fader? And then the second part of that, in the episode that you're in, you shoot a paparazzo. Was that...
I did, didn't I?
Was that cathartic?
Yeah, I suppose it kind of was, but you know, Bill's a character, and he's a lot of fun, and James Spader's a great guy too, and they're both so talented. But yeah, that was the first time that I'd ever actually worked with Bill. In fact, I'm trying to remember, it might have been the first time I'd actually met him in person. I don't remember if I'd met him at a convention before that. I don't think so. But Bill is a force of nature. I don't know if any of you have been at a convention and met Bill.
He's been here.
He is hilarious, he's brilliant. Slightly insane, I think. But he is a force of nature. So it was a lot of fun.
Thank you.
Got one more here.
Hey. She can't reach
Here,
it.
somebody help her get that mic.
Hi.
Hi.
Were you scared on your first episode?
You know what? I was scared for everyone else.
Yes, I was very scared for my first episode because I was the new kid. Everybody else had been there for 3 years, working together all the time. And they all knew each other, and they knew everything about the characters, and everything about it was new for me, and pretty scary. And I had laser over one eye, so I couldn't really see very well.
I was such a huge fan of the original Star Trek series. I don't think I was scared so much as I was just overwhelmingly excited.
Were you scared at all about, like, oh my God, this is the first time Star Trek's been on television in 20 years?
No, that didn't.
You weren't worried
that
about, like,
didn't bother me
maintaining the legacy or anything like
thought,
that?
you know what? If Gene Roddenberry's involved, then that's all we really need.
How much contact did you have with Mr. Roddenberry on a daily basis?
Well, we had quite a bit.
Yeah.
He cast us.
Yeah.
And we saw him a lot for the first couple of years until he got sick and we didn't see him for a while. But yeah, he was.
And we'd all go to lunch with him.
Yeah, we'd go to lunch and he'd have us to his house.
Yeah.
And yeah, it was kind of amazing knowing him.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, we got one more here. I keep saying that, but we'll do one more here.
So I have a real question and I have a Star Trek question.
What?
I'm kidding. So my Star Trek question is, would you ever, like on set, would anybody ever refer to your character jokingly as Data?
No. Well, that happened in the show once. Dr. Pulaski called me Data, and I said, my name is Data. And she said, Data and Data, what's the difference? And I said, one is my name, the other is not. But you know how the pronunciation of Data came because we had a meeting right off the bat. Gene called a meeting. We were at the Sheraton Hotel in a ballroom, in an office room, and we were all around a big table, and we were going to read through the script for the first time. And Patrick started whatever, and it got to my character, and he said, Data. And I went, wait, I'm sorry, can we stop? I went, is it Data? I thought I was Data. And Gene, at that point, made a ruling that whoever says any of the words on the show first, that's the way it's pronounced. And so that's how I became Data. And that held, by the way, all through the series. Whoever's...
Bull,
what?
bull,
What?
and bull.
What?
Until,
Oh, really?
again, Ho's the new kid.
Yeah.
Because they get on the set, and on my first day of shooting, I've got the line, resistance is futile. And the only thing that I knew about the Borg was they had given me first contact to watch and said, well, we're not doing that. Don't do that. We're not this. And they gave me the Locutus episode, but don't do that because we're not doing that either. And you're not as free as the Borg Queen, but you're not a typical Borg drone, so we're making something new. I said, okay, but always it's resistance is futile. That's the voice of the collective. So we get on set, and I said, no, I'm supposed to say futile, right? And they said, oh, no, that's just because Patrick was British. I was like, are you sure? Yeah, you just say futile. I'm like, okay. The only Borg drone who said futile. It's a hive mind. The collective said futile. It's like, guys, whoever says it first. There you go.
Well, Gene was gone by then.
No.
But I said resistance is futile also. Yeah, not on the series, but in First Contact, the movie. And yeah, and I had the same, I said, shouldn't I be saying futile? Rick said, no, it's futile.
Well, then I feel better. Okay.
Yeah,
solidarity, baby.
Yeah.
How difficult was some of the techno babble, like learning all that stuff, and because when I was fortunate enough to watch you perform on set all those years ago, I just could not believe that you could remember all this dialogue with all these complex terms. How do you do it? And how long does it take you to memorize something like that?
It's real. You're not real. Oh, it's impossible. It's horrible.
It's like speaking in a foreign language because you just have to memorize it syllabically.
Yeah, it's like reading a phone book. And after a 16-hour day, and then you go home and you open it up and you've got pages and pages of dialogue that doesn't mean anything. It's really difficult.
I mean, take us through, like, what was it like shooting episodic television? You just mentioned you work 16 hours a day, and then you've got to run lines all night long. I mean, how, you have, like, literally, what, a couple hours of sleep a day, and that's it?
Really, very little. I used to make a rule with myself that if I couldn't say it out loud perfectly one time, I wouldn't go to sleep. And, yeah, and because it would save me a lot of time on the set. Because, they were rolling, there's a lot of money going on. You got to get it right.
What was it like making the jump? Because on Next Generation, the series ended and boom, rolled right into the first motion picture. Was there any downtime between filming the last episodes and going right into the movie?
A couple weeks?
I had one day between my last day on the series and my first day on the movie.
Yeah, it was quick.
Were you happy with the way it ended, with Nemesis? Being the final installment.
Well, I know all the fans were happy with it.
Or upon watching it, was it not the movie you'd hoped it had been? Or you were okay with it?
And that's always true. I mean, you always want it to be better than it is, even if it's good. But I think it could have certainly been better. But that's not the reason the fans don't embrace it so much. It was the death of this very popular character, no names, that really upset everybody. But the fact is, we had a contingency